Hello, and welcome to another episode of Solipsist Watched. I'm your host, the Social Solipsist, and this week I watched Under Siege from 1992. I'm laughing because I can't believe I watched this. Fucking Steven Seagal right there, front and center, warning you that Steven Seagal is in this movie. I have no idea why they made him the centerpiece, but boy, he sure is right there. This is a weird film that is simultaneously both better and worse than it should be, which is a thought I will explain as we go on. Under Siege is very much in line with a lot of the sort of 80s Cold War military action films that were released. The 70s and the late 70s and through the 80s and into the early 90s all had this particular there was a particular military focus, I think, that was really common in a lot of action films of varying like sort of splits in the genre. This is very much in the genre of the like sort of highly decorated badass saves the day kind of thing. Less in the like super high spectacle or cheesy absurd that you might see from somebody like Stallone or Schwarzenegger or somebody like that. And I hesitate to mention this film at all in the same breath, let alone in the same video, let alone in the same breath. But something like The Hunt for Red October, which I have talked about before, which is a great film. This is not on the same par at all, but it is. It's weirdly a lot better than I was anticipating it should be. Now, don't get me wrong. Steven Seagal is garbage. I am not 100% sure. I'm very aware of Steven Seagal in the like public cultural consciousness, especially recently, as he's become buddies with a whole bunch of Eastern European dictators and things, which makes it all the more funny that, he had a bunch of roles as pseudo-patriotic military / gung-ho America people in the 80s and stuff. Steven Seagal is a weird guy and not a good guy and wholly incompetent in pretty much every way. And it is genuinely a wonder to me that anyone hired him for anything other than if they were laughing at him. But no, the answer seems to be some people genuinely think he is, or at least was, a cool badass, which I don't understand. Steven Seagal ruins this film. This film's pretty decent. And it is brought to its knees with a very limp kick by Steven Seagal's terrible martial arts and acting and just everything about him just immediately draining the charisma out of any scene. The plot's pretty decent. It's not very complicated. And having most of the rest of the cast are pretty excellent. Even the woman who was and also plays a Playboy playmate in the film is a more convincing actor than Steven Seagal is. But a special shout out to Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey, regardless of their personal, them personally as people, as they do a great job in this film, playing their roles just chef's kiss beautifully. I really enjoy their performances, and a ton of the minor extra characters are also at least competent, if not better. The plot itself even makes a reasonable amount of sense without straying too far into the cheese. For better or for worse, because there's an element of this that has a genuine tension and believability to it, where to compare it again to something like The Hunt for Red October, where for some of the questionable stuff and some of the cheese that's in it, like, it's still a pretty serious movie. It takes itself very seriously, and it earns that because it does its due diligence. Whereas this film starts to do that, and then the thing that exemplifies this to me is that everyone acting around Steven Seagal acts like he's some legendary badass that's gonna save the day. They are 100% earnest in their performances. And there's nothing wrong with how this is shot. It's 100% on Steven Seagal. They're like, oh, that guy, we didn't know that guy was there. He's gonna do this thing. Look at how decorated he is. And then they do a cut to Steven Seagal, who like mopily mumbles some shit halfway into the camera, definitely misses his lines. I'm pretty sure not a single second take was done of any of his deliveries in the entire film. And it's just absolutely drains any believability out of the scene. And there's a lot of it there that he just sabotages. So, unfortunately, this should be a very good, serious film. Instead, it ends up being a decent, half-serious film because of the sabotage done by Steven Seagal. It's terrible. Like, there's a lot of great scenes in this film. There's even good, well choreographed action scenes and stuff. None of the good ones involve Steven Seagal. And I would have liked to be there to know what the reactions were at the time, or I just can't understand how anyone wouldn't have gone, yep, pretty good film, Steven Seagal ruined it. 'Cause he's got no charisma, he's got no action capability. He's been doing the same slap fight bullshit choreography for decades. Like I said, clearly none of his I don't think any of his stuff was reshot, or they reshot it a bunch of times and he just couldn't get one sentence lines out without mangling something. And this was 30 years ago. So it's not old man Seagal quite yet. Though he is pudgy. It's so bizarre for them not to go, ooh, Steven Seagal is really bad. Why don't we cut him out of this film and do a bunch of reshoots, since he's almost never in any scenes with anybody? That's the other thing. He is actually one of the saving graces, I think, is that he is not in that many scenes in the film. Despite being ostensibly the main character, if you told me he had less screen time than some of the other people, like the other top billed people, I'd believe you. I don't think he's in the film. There's whole 10, 15, possibly 20-minute sections where he's almost completely absent or completely absent. And that is to the film's not to its detriment. It saves that to some extent, because you're like, oh, a breather of good film for a while. And a lot of the scenes where he is in it, he's not like, there's very limited interaction between him and the other stars. They are basically removed from each other for the vast majority of the film. And that is a good thing. The one good scene is the final confrontation. That's all I'm going to say. The final confrontation is excellent. It is beautiful. It is incredible. It is choreographed perfectly. And I say that last one with a bit of irony because I'm not entirely sure it was choreographed. I'm pretty sure that that Steven Seagal meandered onto set and just either said whatever he wanted or did whatever he wanted. And if you told me that final scene, like that final scene is 100% good thanks to the investment of the other people in the scene, not Steven Seagal. So if you told me that the final scene was basically improv'd, I'd believe you. And that they fixed it in an edit or something like that, or like decided how it was gonna have to go down. Like they shot the first part of it and then went, well, how do we close this out? I don't know, Steven, do this thing, and then we'll have the 5 seconds of footage we need to fix this in post. But it's genuinely incredible. It's beautiful. It's so bad. It's charming. It really is. But see, like, for all of my enjoyment of it, Steven Seagal is terrible, and not even in the so good it's bad kind of way. He's just a schlubby, incompetent mess. And the dichotomy between him and everything going on around him is hilarious. Production wise, it's really good too. They keep the scope limited enough, but like, clearly there's a lot going on this ship. And my understanding is they used, a different ship that was in, like a museum. It was being basically like a floating museum ship for a lot of the interior stuff. It looks great. They use it really well. It's very believable that they are just on the ship that they're on the Missouri. As far as the realism of how it all goes down and whether it would be feasible in the first place, let alone like some of the Hollywood understanding of physics and weapons and things like that, I think you're not served well in questioning it that far. I do find it hilarious to get responses from people who are or were in the military on like, hey, what's the goofiest shit in XYZ films? Yeah, if you happen to have been in the Navy and seen this film, I'm sure you've got some shit to say about it. I have at least one person I might ask about something. 'Cause yeah, there's some good and some bad here. But as far as like a tail end of the Cold War kind of action film, you could do worse. The other movie I was thinking about while watching this was, I don't know if you guys have seen The Rock from 96. Is it 96? Hold on. 96. Directed by Michael, I forgot it's directed by Michael Bay. That film's slightly terrible, but also kind of great in some aspects. And there were some aspects of this that were very reminiscent to me of that. Although obviously, Under Siege came out first. Yeah, the military support / military critique films are always fascinating to me, especially when they're goofy, bad, unrealistic, whatever. But yeah, if that piques your interest at all, and you end up watching this, I mean, yeah, you could spend your time worse ways. So yeah, let me know what you think if you have seen this or you end up watching it. Anyway, yeah, I could talk about a few other things, but I don't think it's really stunningly relevant. It's pretty simple film, and I hit on all the relevant points. Anyway, thank you guys for watching another episode of Solipsist Watched. I've been the Social Solipsist, and I'll see you guys next time.